All right. Golf Clash has announced the 2020 Community Cup. So we have a new tournament for next week. And as soon as I start talking, we've already got ambulances coming because this is going to be one of those deals. These Community Cups are always. We had the one from last year, the 2019 Community Cup. These are wild tournaments. So we talk about low scoring. They're low scoring. I mean, there's a bunch of holes in this tournament that are going to make the scores very, very low. So get out your pen and paper and let's go through so you can take a look at the holes. I put a playlist together, and the only hole, what's funny is I have over 3,000 videos posted on my channel, and I don't have one of the holes. I don't have hole number 7 that's going to be in this. And but we're going to go through all of them. So pen and paper. Hole number 1 of the 2020 Community Cup is going to be Eagle Peak. Hole number 2. Hole number 2 is Eagle Peak, hole number 8. Hole number 3 is going to be Eagle Peak, hole number 3. Hole number 4 is Greenock Point, hole number 1. Hole number 5 is Greenock Point, hole number 4. Hole number 6 is Greenock Point, hole number 7. Hole number 7 is I'll pronounce this wrong all week long. Stupid American. Namhe Cliffs, Nahami, Namahi. It's one of those. It's something around there. Cliffs, hole number 6. Namhe Cliffs, hole number 4. And Namhe Cliffs, hole number 3. So those are going to be the holes that are going to be in the 2020 Community Cup. So the first hole that's going to be in there is going to be Eagle Peak, hole number 2, this par 3 right here. All right, there is a bunch of ways to come at this. In the past, when we've played this hole, I have always come at it. I've come straight at it with what my deal is I'm cutting out this sand. The only thing I'm looking at is this right here. And I've come at it with my Guardian. And I'm not sure which ball I was using, but my red line was right in here, so I had just enough room to work out the wind. I know we were doing a wind adjustment here, but I can't remember what it was. And I'm going straight at it with my Guardian. The problem with going straight out with the Guardian is here's the flagpole. And so normally when I'm doing big backspin shots, I start off like it comes up, there's bounce number 1, and bounce number 2, I put that bounce number 2 right in the cup. And it'll either, you got a chance that it may go in on that bounce, or it'll come behind it and then it'll suck back to the cup. And the cup here is on a little mound. So if you go past the cup, it doesn't have that it doesn't bring it back with that full backspin. It tends to want to roll forward and end up short. So if you're taking it with a backspin shot, the third bounce, I think I had my third bounce where I was kind of right in front of the green to try and get to release up there. And this is not, for me, this has never been a high percentage hole, par 3 to get a hole-in-one on. There is a rough bump that you can do here. But this is my least favorite type of rough bump to do, because where you're setting up here, here's your gold ring and here's your orange ring. So you've got zero room here to the right. If you hit to the right, catch a great to the right, you're on the fairway, and now you're back here in the sand. If you catch a great to the left, you fattened up this rough, and there's a good chance that you might get caught up in the rough. Now, you may dribble out and be right here and have a chip on, which would be ideal if that happened. But this is just one of those types of rough bumps that if I hit perfect all the time, or if you hit perfect all the time, this rough bump will give you probably the best shot at getting a hole-in-one here. So if you're one of those players that hits perfect all the time, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage over the rest of us, because this rough bump probably will give you the best opportunity. I'm going to explore my options this week with all the clubs. So where your red line's at here, you could come at this with, you can make it so that you can come at it with a long iron by bringing either a bigger ball or bringing a Goliath. You can make it so that you can come at it with your wood by bringing a smaller ball. So there's a lot of different ways that you can come at it. My goal is to try and start off so I'm in front of the sand. So I've seen other people do a shot where they're down here and they're like, yellow ring off and then orange ring in the sand, and they're taking the same risk. If you said, hey, you've got to take either this shot or this shot, I'm going to take this shot. Just because in a worst case scenario, I end up in the rough. I'd much rather try and get a recovery shot from the rough than get a recovery shot from the sand. But there's a lot of different ways that you can come at this depending on what clubs you have in your bag. With my lower developed account, this is a tricky hole, and this is the type of hole when you've got lower developed clubs where you've got limited ball guide, that this kind of hole can eat your lunch. So with my lower developed account, I'm going to explore what my options are. But in a worst case scenario, I think the last time we played this with my lower level account, I brought out a level 1 Guardian. It has like 1.9 ball guide, but all you need to know is like where it's coming in, and you're going to end up in this area, take your putt and move on down the road. But there are a lot of options on this, but in my game, this has never been a high percentage hole-in-one type par 3. But I do think that you have a much better shot at getting a hole-in-one if you're hitting from over here in the rough. So for those of you brave souls that don't mind doing these types of rough bumps, that might be the best way. But I will tell you that if it bites you once, it will bite you hard. So be aware that this could be a very dangerous hole. But I'm going to work this hole. Because I've had limited success on this hole in the past, I'm going to change up what I do on this hole, and I'm going to do something different because I want to try and increase my odds of getting a hole-in-one. I probably have only picked up maybe one hole-in-one on this hole, and that's it. All right, hole number 2 is on Eagle Peak. Hole number 8. I'm surprised that hole made it in, because in the Community Cup last year, every hole was absolutely the easiest hole on those courses to pick up a hole-in-one or pick up an Albie or pick up an Eagle on a par 4. And that seems a little strange that they put in a lower percentage, but that is a very hole-in-oneable hole if you do that rough bump. I mean, it can be. This hole right here, if you come on this hole and don't get an Eagle, that is an epic fail. Now I'm coming at this hole. Okay, there's a lot of different ways that you can come at it. I don't like anything about over here trying to get up on the green. Oh, let's start off first. Laying up here. Here's the platform, and here's the green. That is so much higher. We talk about elevation changes. There has got to be every bit of a 50 or a 60% elevation change between up here at the top on either side to down at the green. I mean, you're up here looking down into a well. Like normally I'd say, oh, like here's the green. It is way down there. To me, laying up here at the top to try and go for that shot, I would rather be in the rough, the sand, anywhere down here in any of this stuff is going to be an easier shot than what it's like up here or up here. So there is no way. If you want to watch somebody demo the shots from up at those pads, you're going to have to go watch somebody else, because to me, that's not only a layup, that's a layup to a losing position. Those shots from up there are harder than hard. So I'm interested in trying to get on the green and one. I want to get an Eagle on this hole. So you can hit through the trees, and there's several ways that you can do it. You can come from back here and go under the trees, which I'm not a fan of. The reason I'm not a fan of is that if you're off just a little bit and you hit the trees, now you're in the trees. When I take this shot right here, if you go in between this tree and this gap right here, you can take an extra mile on a big ball Titan Kingmaker, and you can get your line going through this gap so that if you clip the trees, you fall past the trees and you're out here in the rough and the trees are behind you. There's no chance of getting caught up in the trees. Even if you're off trajectory and you clip this tree going through, you're gonna fall through and you're gonna end up on the other side and the trees are behind you. So I'm not really a fan of hitting through trees, because if you clip the tree trunk, and you're bouncing around like a pinball machine, you could actually end up in the trees behind a tree, and now you're SOL. That's the brown emoji, out of luck. But there is an easier way. And you can do this with the easiest way to do it. All right, sorry about that. So if you've got some upper developed clubs and you have an APOC or a rock, those are the clubs. Rock being number one. If you've got an upper developed rock, if not, use your APOC for curl, and it's all about curl. So what I'm doing with my rock is I'm setting up in this area right here. I'm using a Katana, doing max backspin, maximum left-hand side spin, max backspin, and however much left-hand side spin you can get on, which is quite a bit. Maximum curl, and bringing it right down and ending up on the green in one. Take your putt and move the heck on. You can do the same thing with an APOC. You can do this shot and you'll have to practice it with a big topper. Your distance, your forward distance where you're at out here, you may have to bring a bigger ball in order to pick up some distance from where the rock is at. But you can get this done and just bring it around the outside of these trees and come straight down to the cup. Anywhere you end up down here on the fairway is fine, but if you do the shot with the APOC and the rock, you can actually be on the green making a putt. The other way that you can go at it, if you've got lower developed clubs and you don't have an APOC or you don't have an upper developed rock, is you can go over the top of the trees right here and try and get down in here. It's less consistent than the shot going around. So if you're practicing, you get out there and you practice this hole and you don't have, like I said, you don't have an APOC or a rock, try it with your big topper and see like where the spot is out here. But I'm definitely a fan of going around the trees and not involving the trees at all. But if you've got one of these two clubs, I guarantee you, and I posted some demos for holes in the past, and the last time we played this hole on every time with a rock getting an eagle, and this is definitely a hole that we want to get an eagle on. But you can also pick that up with the extra mile, but I think it is a little bit more, it's a little more hit or miss. You may hit it 4 times and then when you really need it, you may miss it, or you may hit it, it's not as consistent as trying to go around the trees. All right, that was hole number 8. And those are really, this area here is really the way to come at it. I tried when this hole first came out trying to come over here because there's also a lane over here that you can do with your extra mile, and I found that I ended up in the sand more often than not. And when I did really catch it, then it was 50-50 that I'd either end up on the green or I'd end up in this sand. So this side over here seemed to be more consistent. Hole number 3. It's going to be hole number 3 at Eagle Peak. And this hole right here has been a hit or miss hole for me. Coming out with an extra mile, Titan, or a Kingmaker, engaging this fairway over here. You can also use, if you've got a big topper, you can start off over here with all of the topspin and come out as far as you can. Where the shadow's at, you want to get somewhere like in this area up here, and you've got a short iron coming in. If you're there's a fine line out here between max short iron and minimum long iron. If you're in your long iron, you want to bring your long iron that has the absolute best ball guide, because there is a backboard here and there's a funnel where you can come up the flagpoles right here, and you can come up from here and you can watch that tail come back down, and you can pick that up on that funnel if you've got a long iron that's got lots of ball guide. If you're in your short iron range, a Hornet works really well here. You can go straight at it. But this is definitely the side, if we're playing rookie, where you're trying to get up into this area right here. Anywhere out here will work if you're trying to get into your long iron range, because you can use that backboard and try and funnel it up to the cup. You can try and go straight at it. The deal is if you're trying to go straight at it, you'll probably have to bring a long iron that's got backspin, because where you can engage in front of that sand, you're pretty close to the cup. So it's probably better if you're bringing a long iron to try and use the backboard and funnel it back down to the cup. Whereas if you're with your short iron, you can get in front of that sand and you can go right at it. So we've got some options on this hole as well. I've hit eagles on this hole, but it's not one of those holes that and I'm putting myself into my short iron range, and I feel like if I get into my short iron range, I'm pretty deadly. But for some reason, this hole just does not want to give it up. It slaps me in the face every time I come here. I have picked up a lot of eagles on this, but percentage-wise, when I compare it to other par fours where I get into my short iron range, it's just not it's not it's not giving it up. So hopefully this week I can get it figured out a little bit better, and maybe this week in this tournament I can change my luck on this hole. So that was Granite Point, hole 3. Is that, or Eagle Peak, hole 3? That's hole 3 in the 2020 Community Cup, and hole 3 in Eagle Peak. So hole number 4 is going to be at Granite Point. So let's go check out Granite Point. Granite Point. This is my absolute favorite tour in the entire game. And I wish it used to be when it first came out, you could play it in Tour 5 and Tour 10. And now I think it's in Tour 9. And I wish it was still in Rookie, because this course right here, if you're playing up the scales and you're in Tour 9 and you're having a rough time on this, I would recommend that you continue to play Tour 9 until you master this course. Because when you master this course teaches you everything you need to know to be successful in this game. It teaches you curl. It teaches you all kinds of stuff. It teaches you how to do blind curl. It's just a great course. And all of the holes are very challenging. I like Granite Point. So we're on hole number 3. Hole 3. Hey. Hole number 3. Da-da-da-da. Is that right? No, we're on hole number 1. Sorry about that. Hole number 1. Granite Point. Hole number 1 is going to be hole number 4 of the 2020 Community Cup. There's lots of different ways to play this. There's another line other than the black line, and you can do a rough bump here. And there was one tournament that this hole was in where I did the rough bump here, and you need a club that's got some toss in to get you up there. But that rough bump is a pretty good shot at it. I normally take the black line as opposed to the others. If you're playing from the second tees, this side over here is probably better. And if you've got a Thor's Hammer, this is a great hole for a Thor's Hammer because it's got backspin. So if you're over here shooting on the yellow line, it's got backspin, and that's one of the things that you're looking for on the yellow line. If you're playing from the back tees, you're going to find yourself on this hole a lot playing with your driver, and the yellow line works out really well. I do a 10% wind adjustment on this hole. And the black line, the last few times we've been here, the way that the wind is blowing is the wind has been blowing in this direction. And so when we make our adjustment, we have to deal with this sand. And anytime you go over sand, especially on these older holes with how far it drops down, it can affect the ball a little bit different. So I try and bring a ball on this that cuts the wind down enough that we don't have to do sand adjustments or I have to get over the sand. I want to try and stay where I'm on the rough or the fairway when I'm making that wind adjustment and try and keep away from that sand. In the past, I played this with a sniper and a quasar if I'm playing from the black line. But I'm going to explore I went through all my videos on this hole, and I think the one that I included in the playlist, I had like 20 videos of playing this hole, and I had one of them perfect. That's one of my problems on this hole is that I don't know, this hole just kicks my butt. It's another one. It's kind of like the first par 3. It's one of those holes that getting up there and getting by the green is, I think, is super easy, but getting a hole in one here, it's not like a super high percentage hole in one type hole. But I'm going to increase my odds here, and I this type of rough bump, which is different than the other rough bump that was on the first par 3, hole number 1, is that from where you're engaging in here, if you get a grate to the left or the right, you're still in the rough and you're still coming forward. And if the wind is blowing in this direction, that's going to be a pretty good wind. If you hit it super fat on the right-hand side, you could get caught up in the rough. But I'm going to explore the rough bump again and go back to that shot and see how I like it. But I'm going to be working this hole this week, possibly changing from my landing zone out here, going back to the rough bump, because I want to increase my odds of getting a hole in one on this hole. But what it takes is a perfect shot. And so if this hole continues to not want to give me a perfect shot, then I'm going to continue to be super, super close to the hole. I have hit hole-in-ones here, but like I said, it's not a super high percentage par 3 for me. But I'm going to change how I play some of these par 3s, and I'm going to try and work a different spot than what I have in the past, because I want to try and increase my odds of getting a hole-in-one. But I don't want to do something so risky that I end up dropping a shot on one of these par threes. I still want to make sure that I can get my par or my birdie with my eyes closed. But if it will increase my odds of getting a hole-in-one, then I'm going to explore it. At least until I epic fail on that shot the first time, and then I may have to go back to some other deal. But I am definitely going to be working something in this area, either the shot here or the rough bump. Hole number 5. Hole number 5 is going to be hole number 4 of Greenock Point. And this hole right here, and when this hole was in, what was the last tournament it was in? It was in one of the tournaments that we did here in Holiday Hills, or one of those tournaments. And I'm not sure what happened to my weekend round videos. I didn't have a weekend round video on here, but I changed this hole the last time we played it. In the weekend round, I actually changed the club that I was coming into the cup, and I eagled this hole twice in a row. And what I changed was I noticed that from where I was coming into the cup, I didn't need anything more than how much backspin was on a Hornet. And the Hornet is so accurate that it gave me a better shot at coming in. So the shot to the cup, I was doing a Hornet with 10%, and the drive, I'm doing an extra mile, and you can do the Kingmaker. And I'm not a fan of this white line. And the reason I'm not a fan of this white line is where you're landing out in here. This area, when you're looking at it on this picture right here, it looks like it's super flat and it's no big deal. But this little mound right here goes like this. Here's the fairway, and then here's the mound. And anywhere you hit on that mound, if you catch anywhere around the peripheral here and on this little ski jump, which is at an angle like this, at a side angle, if you hit it high, you're going to go one way. If you hit it low, you're going to take a bounce this way. High, you're going to take a bounce that way. And you may hit a one ring great to the left or the right hitting this mound, and the way that it will respond is like a 2 or 3 ring great to the right. And so if you hit it low here, you'll end up out in here. And if you hit it high, you'll end up out in here. Really, you're limiting yourself to hitting it perfect to try and get up there. It's a super dangerous area down in here. So for me, I'm not ever playing the white line. The yellow line is pretty easy. You don't have to do a lot here, and you don't have to use max topspin. The thing you got to remember about here is your first bounce is right here, and your second bounce is in this area. And where I prefer to be if I'm on the yellow line, if we draw a line here where here's the flagpole and here's the fairway, the closer you can get up here into this corner, the straighter this shot is. And when you're looking at the green, the pin's kind of on a hill and it runs up to it, and then it goes hill all the way around. And you can almost come straight at the cup without having to really engage the hill if you're way up here in this corner. So your ball guide's going out like this, and I see a lot of people, they'll put curl on it to try and get up into this corner. But the farther you go to the left, the longer this fairway is. So if you draw that line here, it's farther to this point than it is. So if you're coming across right here, if I can get my pen to work, if you're coming across right here versus trying to get it to go like this, the farther up here you go, you got to hit farther in order to clear this rough. So if you put too much curl on it and you come this way, you'll clip the rough, or I see people get caught up in the rough all the time, and it'll just dribble out. If you're in the rough on this side right here, you're going to have a super difficult time getting up. Even if you've got a Nirvana, you're going to have a super difficult time getting up there. If you're down in the rough down on this end down here, you can get up. But if you're up at the top, you do not want to end up in the rough. You definitely want to be in the fairway on this shot. So typically your landing zone is going to be out here. And we'd really like to get up here, but it's difficult to get up there because of trying to clear this rough right here. This is a great shot if you've got lower developed clubs. You don't really have to do any overpower. You just need to bring a big ball. Titan, king of balls, something of that nature. I do kind of a combination of the black and the white line. I want to come right in this area right here with my first bounce, doing max overpower. So when I'm leaving the tee box, if I can get back here far enough we can see the tee box. When I'm leaving the tee box, if I draw a line from that rough right there, so I want to be right out in this area with max curl, max top spin, max left-hand side spin, and doing a max overpower shot. But I want to leave myself tons of room here, tons of room. So if you do catch it, if I catch it great on the left, it's not going to matter. I'm still going to end up in the fairway, and it's going to pull me forward in this direction. If I hit it great on the right, I may end up clipping the rough out here. And this is a great hole. If you come at this hole from up at the top and you end up in the rough, you definitely want to bring a club that's got some backspin. So this may be a great hole for a Houdini or something that's got, you want a little bit of backspin. There's, what you can do is if you're trying to engage the green right here, you're definitely going to need some backspin to slow it down. So normally if you're in that spot, you'll have to come off here to the side where you still got fairway, and then you'll have to bring it back around to the cup. The goal with that shot is to land in this area right here, clear this, bounce over this rough area, and end up somewhere out in this neighborhood right here in your short iron range. And like I said, if you've got a Hornet, especially if you got an upper developed Hornet, you can come at it. It's got enough backspin that you can stick it and go straight at the cup with the most accurate short iron that you have. If you've got lower developed stuff and your Hornet doesn't have enough backspin, you can use a thorn, you can use a claw. The thorn, okay, the claw and the thorn. The thorn has better ball guide, so you're going to be able to see farther down the tail, but it's less accurate. So you've got better ball guide, but you've got a little less accuracy. The claw has a little bit less ball guide, but it's 25% more accurate. And backspin, the 97 versus 100 is negligible. I mean, you're not going to notice that. So depending on which club you have and whether you want more ball guide or you want more accuracy, it could go either way. I mean, I can see the whole thing about the ball guide, because the ball guide is really important when you're trying to get up here. So you can come at this with an extra mile to get out into this area and bounce up. And then for your short iron, depending on the level of your clubs, like I said, I'm going to bring a Hornet, but you could bring a claw, you could bring a thorn. It just depends on where your club levels are. If you've got a Nirvana and a Spitfire, you won't need to really change anything up. You can get on with them. But if you've got, depending on where you end up out here, if you're trying to come at it on the other side of the sand, you'll definitely need lots of backspin. This hole right here is a par 4 that we can get an eagle on. And like I said, the last time we had this in a tournament, it's always been one of those ones where it was kind of a maybe 30% of the time I got an eagle on. But when I switched to my Hornet, where I was coming in with a super accurate club, I did the last 2 times I played this hole in tournament play, I got eagles on it switching from my claw to my Hornet. And my claw's got better ball guide and it's got enough backspin, and so it was a great club to use on this hole. All right, what hole was that? That was hole number 4. Hole number 6 of the 2020 Community Cup is going to be hole number 7 of Greenock Point. Hole number 7. I haven't played this hole in tournament play in a long time. I use a QB and a Kingmaker, or excuse me, a QB and a Katana. And the reason I'm using a Katana is because I'm doing a rough bump here, and if I used a Kingmaker, my window down here to do the rough bump, and I'm doing a rough bump with a sniper, my window is such that the last time we played this in a tournament, our wind was going in this direction, and there wasn't enough room for me to work the wind out. So with a Katana, it pulled my red line back in this direction, so then I could work the wind out. And the goal here is you're not trying to get it down there a mile. You're trying to get it right in this area right here and doing that rough bump with your sniper. Now you can bring a much bigger ball and you could probably hit this with you probably go at it with a Goliath if your secondary club was a Goliath, and try and go at it that way. So like what long iron you bring and what wood you bring is going to be dependent on the area down here. So when you're practicing this hole, kind of look, this might not be a bad hole to bring a Goliath on, because the red line between your Goliath and your wood is going to be non-existent. I mean, like literally 1 second you're in Goliath, and I mean instantaneously you're in wood. So if you find yourself with a red line issue down here, a Goliath might not be a bad choice, because you could still get it done if you're not in the right spot where you could work out the wind with your wood. You can get into your Goliath and then you can work the wind out. So a Goliath might not be a bad spot. They have changed this from its original configuration. The flagpole used to be kind of in a bowl, and if you got the right trajectory in that bowl, everything kind of funneled towards the cup, but they flattened it out now and that bowl's not there anymore. And I think the rough bump is definitely the best way to come at it if you're trying to get it, if you're trying to pick up the shot on this hole. There is an Albie that you can get on this hole, and I really do think the best way to come at it is with the rough bump. It's a little bit more difficult. If you're trying to do the shot coming in, you're going to definitely need a club with backspin, or you're going to have to come off to the side here. So either you come at it with a Guardian so that you can engage right here and go right at the cup, or you're going to have to swing out a little bit so that you can bring it back around. And there is a little bit of if you hit it here, it'll roll back down to the cup. It's not as consistent as it used to be because they've gotten rid of that bowl, but there are several shots here. But I think the best way to go at it if you're trying to get Albie is to do the rough bump. And so, like I said, you'll have to work that out for your clubs. But there is a serious Albie look on this hole. That was hole number 6. Hole number 7 is going to be, now we're on the Namahe Cliffs. Let's go check them out. Learn how to spell today. And the first one here is going to be, it's a par 3 and it's hole number 6. Let's go hole number 6. This is the one hole that I don't have a video of. And this is a very tricky hole because it falls off. You can see the shadows right here, the shadows over here, and it falls off on this side. So if you're off trajectory, it'll fall off and bleed off. And this hole also bleeds to the back of the cup very quickly. So speed is very important. And we are way downhill, like way downhill. This is, and if you're playing from the rookie tees, we're coming at this. I'm pretty sure we're coming at this with a short iron. So whichever short iron you would like, I'm going to bring my most accurate short iron. And the deal is, we're definitely going to want to do a wind adjustment, because you can't, here's your rings, and this is about as close as you can get to them. You can hardly get down in there. So this is the type of hole that it's really hard to make super accurate wind adjustments, because you're trying to make that fine-tune adjustment, but you're about a mile away from your ring set. So it's very difficult to make those adjustments. I'll be looking for this hole and practice. I'm going to go practice this week, and I'll try and get some videos of this particular hole, because I don't have one in the playlist, and I'll try and add it in before the week is over. We definitely have and this is a par 3 that we can get a hole-in-one on, even though it's a tough par 3. This par 3, of the par 3s that are in this tournament, this par 3 right here, I've made more hole-in-ones than any of the other ones. But it is a very difficult hole, and if you get it wrong, you will end up off the green, and it's very easy to end up off over on this side. And like I said, if you go long on this hole, it could be really bad. But we'll work on this. I'll try and get some videos of this one as the week goes on. Hole number 8 in the 2020 Community Cup is going to be hole number 4. All right, this hole right here, we can get on 1. So if you come out here, I think in the video that I have on this, I was just doing it in one-on-one play, and I came out here with a Marlin, and you can engage on this side with the Marlin and end up out into your short iron range and go straight at it with your short iron. And I don't think I was doing any special wind adjustment. It's a flat hole, just right at it, wherever you're at in your club. I play my short iron, my Hornet, 1-1 at max, 1-9 at mid, 2-2 at minimum. I can't remember where I was at in the club, but it's a pretty straightforward shot. But the deal is that you can get on in 1 if you bring a bigger ball. So if you bring a Titan, or possibly even a Power 4 ball, without doing really any overpower, you can get on in 1 and make a putt. So these par 4s that are in this, there's 2 of them that we can absolutely get on in 1 and make a putt and move along and get eagles on. And this is one of them. And we need to get an eagle on this hole every time. The people that are at the top of the bracket are going to have gotten an eagle on this hole every single time they played it all week long. And we need to be in that group. So coming over to this side right here and going straight at the cup. The other thing about this hole that's different than when this hole originally came out, this is the fairway, first cut of the rough. If I can get my pen to work, first cut of the rough, second cut of the rough, third cut of the rough. When this hole originally came out, the third cut of the rough was out of bounds. Now the out of bounds is in the water. So if you end up in the drink, you're out of bounds. But if you end up anywhere else, you're in bounds. But when this hole originally came out, you needed to stay in the fairway because the out of bounds was right there. It was very easy to get out of bounds on this hole when it first, because you're coming out here. If you hit a shot and you end up out here in the rough, it's not a big deal now. But originally that was out of bounds. But this is definitely a hole that we can get a eagle on, and you can get up there in one. I'm not gonna say the word hole in one, but you can get up there in one and just take a short putt. It's possible that you could get a hole in one on it, but our goal is to just make sure we get eagle every time. So that was hole number 4. Hole number 9 in the 2020 Community Cup is this par 5 right here. Okay, hold on one second. All right, sorry about that. Of all the par 5s in this game, my favorite par 5 is also, this is my second favorite par 5 in the game. My favorite par 5 in the game is a super hard par 5 to get an Albie on, but the way that I play it, I catch Albies on it, and a lot of people don't, and I love that hole. It's super technical. A lot of people fail on it, and I'm out there trying to get Albie, and 50% of the people are epic failing on it. But this hole right here is a little bit different. I'm not sure. There are some par 5s in this game that you can get on in one and go for hole in one, but this is the hole. Of all the par 5s out there, I've hit more Albies on this hole than any other par 5 in the game by far. And I have swirled the cup twice on a hole in one shot on a par 5. And so, but you can epic fail on this hole if you do not get your drive shot right. Now, you can shoot the white line. And the goal with the white line is, and if you've got lower developed clubs, the white line is super difficult. Not on the first shot. It's super difficult on the second shot to get over into this area and get up. And this is a monster green. I've had an epic fail on this green where I shot my very first shot and ended up right here on the green, and it's a max over par putt that you can't make. So you either want to get, if you're on the green, you want to get up here by the cup so that you can take a putt, or you want to be on the fringe or off, because if you're just barely dribbled onto the green, you're in big trouble. Now, when I first started playing this hole, let's talk about with lower developed stuff. When this hole first came out and we first started playing this hole, I came out here with I would do, because if you've got a lower developed extra mile, you may have issues. You can bring out a big ball and you can get over. But if you're trying to land on this pad up here, I actually used to do a rough bump where I would hit the rough and just dribble out into this area and come at it. And I used a horizon because it's got so much topspin. You come up really high and try and come up high on the green, and there is a backboard here, and it'll roll back down into the cup. I got a ton of albatrosses on this hole with a extra mile 3, extra mile 4, and a horizon, doing this little rough bump to get up onto this pad. You can hit out here on the fairway and try and bring it around so that you're up in this area and you can stick it on the pad. But this particular hole lends itself to coming out here with a big ball and trying to get on or like right off the green into this area right here where you have a nice short chip up for Albie. But you can get on depending on your clubs. So let's talk about if we're hitting off this island trying to get up there. If you're going in this direction right here, if we draw a line, you've got more fairway over here. So what I see a lot of people do is they'll overshoot. They're setting up on this because your ball guide trajectory is going like this. So they're like, hey, that's where I want it to go. And it's like they forget that they have curl on their club, and they'll overpower and they'll just shoot right off the edge and end up in the water. So if you're coming down in this area, you probably won't have to do any overpower. And the last few times we played this tournament, the wind was blowing in this direction, so the wind was helping us out. My goal is, and I've always liked this side over here better because the fairway's longer. And so we're coming off in this trajectory right here. And so you're going to have to put curl to bring it back over to the fairway. And you can get this done with an extra mile 6. An extra mile 6, you'll have to ride the line a little bit more in here. And you'll have to kind of pinch up against this because it doesn't have as much curl, so that your ball guide's coming out more like this, because you only have limited curl so that you can end up in the middle of the fairway. But if you've got an extra mile 8, extra mile 9, an apocalypse, and you bring out a minimum of a level 3 ball, possibly a level 4, the bigger the ball you bring out, you may not have to do any overpower. So if you bring out a power 5 ball here, you may not have to do any overpower at all if you shoot onto this side and land up in this area right here, so that you can get maximum distance to get on the green and actually go for hole-in-one. I mean, I hate to say the word hole-in-one on a par 5, but this particular hole, I posted in my clan that somebody in our clan is going to get a hole-in-one on this hole this week. Somebody is going to be able to get that done. And I've never got a condor, but I have been. This is the hole right here. If you're going to get a condor in this game, you're going to get a hole-in-one on a par 5. This is the hole that it's going to happen on. So we don't get this hole all the time in tournament play. So whenever we get it, we definitely have to go. I'm not playing any way other than to try and go for the green all week long. And we have a serious look at Albie here. But if you epic fail on this drive, you epic failed in this water. And if that happens, guess what you have to do? You have to go back out there and do the same exact shot again. You can't change your thing, because now you really have to get up there to secure your eagle. Or you may not have an Albie shot anymore, but you can try and secure your eagle on it. But I'm going to hit over to this side right here and try and bring it back around. And you're going to bring out the biggest club that you got. And you will have to explore which balls we're going to use, because we may be able to get up here without doing any max overpower with a power 5 ball. I think in the shot that I demo, I use a power 3 ball and I did max overpower to try and get up into this range. But it's very risky when you're doing a max overpower shot right here when we talk about risk versus reward, because if you make a mistake out here, you're in the drink. You know, if you get over to the other side, you may end up in the rough out here, and you can live with that because you can get up, down, get your eagle, and move along. But we definitely have a great shot of getting on in one and up to the cup on this hole. And I'm curious to see, because we haven't played this hole since they've come out with the extra mile 9. And I'm curious to see how my extra mile 9 reacts on this hole. If you've got Apocalypse 4, this is going to be a great hole because of the curl. So you can bring it around. You'll have a little bit less. You can really dig down into this because you've got more curl. So you can really dig down into here and pick up all of this distance to bring it around, because you've got more curl on that Apocalypse than you do on your extra mile. So as the week goes on, this is one of those holes that I'm going to go through the range of balls to see what gives me the best chance. But I am going to win, lose, or draw this week. I do not care. I am going for hole-in-one on this hole every single time I get to it. If I don't get an Albie on this hole every single time, I'm going to be really ticked, because this is like the first par 4, which is hole number 2, and the last par 4, hole number 8, where we need to get an eagle. This is a hole that you absolutely have to get an Albie on every time. The last time this was this in the Community Cup? This was in the 2019 Community Cup. And it is definitely an Albie hole. And the people that are at the top of the bracket will have Albie this hole every single time they came to it. So we definitely want to try and get Albie every time. It is the Albie par 5. I don't know that there's another one in the game that's as Albieable as this hole, if you can get that drive right. All right, that was just a kind of a quick walkthrough. Let's see how quick that was. That was 44 minutes, so I guess that wasn't as quick as I thought it was. Of the 2020 Community Cup, like I said, I put together, let's go into, I put together a 2020 Community Cup rookie walkthrough for the holes. There's holes in here from other tournaments. The only one I'm missing is hole number 7. So I'll put this video at the top. If you want to take a look at it, you can check out the holes. Thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber, please hit subscribe at the bottom of the channel. Let's see where we're at. I'm getting close to, let's go into it. Getting close to 600 members. We're at 549. So let's see if we can get 600 members by the end of the week. And hopefully everybody has a great tournament, and I will keep posting stuff as the week goes on. Thanks for watching.